The cutoff sleeve, is that just...
That's a trademark.
That's a trademark?
He has 3 shirts with sleeves.
Your black shirt blends so well. I want to make sure folks are aware of the fact that that is a true cutoff sleeve.
You're going to get every redneck from California wanting to order that.
Sun's out, guns out.
So our gritty tip is wear that cutoff sleeve shirt. Work that cutoff sleeve shirt. Make it work for you. And as you feel that manliness, you'll be calling in twice the bulls.
I'm probably going to bring that Sitka or that Swazi and just suck it up and look like an axe murderer on the side of the mountain, because the thing is even though you look like you're wearing a dress and you're getting ready to serve, Swiss Miss Mocha or whatever, it does keep your ass dry, right?
I wanted to ask you a lot of questions about, because you were conspicuously absent when we talked about who the best caller was in that conversation with Ty.
Well, depends.
And who was the ice in the veins killer? You just weren't mentioned.
No, because I'm behind the camera.
I feel you, brother. I feel you.
You know what you look like is like the man from Snowy River. It's like a duster, but with rain gear, right?
We're here with Josh Keller, the infamous Josh Keller, and Ty Stubblefield.
Why am I famous in a bad way?
Infamous.
That's what that means, Larry.
Trent, I will say, is Iceman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like that. I pull my bow back and
it's dead.
No, that's the reason I'm pulling my bow back is to kill that bull.
Yeah.
And it's dead every time.
Yeah.
One arrow.
That's
Ty,
pretty sweet.
Ty, his nickname is 3 Arrows. No, true story. It doesn't matter. He gets
Naked Man 3 Arrows?
Yeah, exactly. But he gets 3 arrows off before I can even knock a second arrow. It's just bonk, bonk, bonk. I smoked 2 of the times. One was in the tree.
That one in the tree is awesome.
We are Full Draw Film Tour,
And we are listening to
The Gritty Bowman!
Yeah!
Hello, alright, you're listening to the Gritty Bowman, home of gritty bow hunting films, interviews, tall tales, and a wee bit of manly boasting.
I'm South Cox, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
Hey, this is Corey Jacobson, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
We bone and raised outdoors, and you've been listening to The Gritty Bowman.
There you go.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Jordan.
And you're watching
The Gritty Bowman.
I told Brian and Katie, so I have to give Katie $10 for every cuss word that I drop.
And
I'm quick. I'm like a rabbit. But like, dude, I shot that elk. I was happy as a pig in poo. Like, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. First day, the sun's not even up. And then he edits things that people probably shouldn't hear, which you guys don't see that. We got to kick it, butt pack out. I almost slipped up on that one, Katie. But he's a smart deer, right? He was old, he had a big pot belly, big swayed back, and gaunted up hips. Probably 8-9-year-old deer. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, you're gonna die.
We package you up so you're more palatable for the public, the general public.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever shoot a big elk? And I'm like, well, I've shot a few big elk, but as Robbie Denning says, if you shoot enough, eventually something's going to be big. And Robbie's right. Like, we beat ourselves up for 12 days. And I'm like, that was the funnest hunt of my life. And they're like, you're sick and twisted. And I'm like, that is what it's all about for me. So why, I don't know, but that's what trips my trigger is hunts like that.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowman podcast. We are back with Aaron Snyder. And so it's, September 10th today when we're recording this. And
I got to get on a plane on the 11th.
Dude, for your mountain goat hunt, right?
Yeah. Well, not mine, but yeah.
Yeah. And I am, what am I like? I'm a day late doing the backpack drawing announcement. We said we do our drawing on the 9th. It turns out it actually takes a day or two for someone's review to show up on iTunes after they put it out there. And same with Stitcher. So I kind of needed to wait an extra day before I did the drawing to make sure I got everybody on there by the deadline.
That's a pretty good. See, I wouldn't have come up with something like that. I'd have just been like, yeah, I haven't grown up yet. I'm late. Deal with it. It's free.
Yeah. So we'll do that. I did want to tell folks out there. First, I did want to apologize to Casey and Jordan at Mountain Ops because their podcast, there's a whole section where I accidentally rendered, like, I accidentally left in dual video tracks, which so there's 2 sets of audio going at the same time.
It's like twice as good.
Dude, we're like having 2 conversations at once. I don't even not know what happened. Speaking of which, though, for folks that don't know, the Gritty Bowman really consists of, when it comes to producing content and putting it out there, it's myself and my sister Katie. So we're doing the best we can. We kind of screwed up on the Mountain Oz podcast and a few others. I've gone back and listened to them, and there's a few swear words that sneak in, Aaron. I'm like, oh, I totally missed that one. And
I'm quick. I'm like a rabbit.
So I'm like, oh no, somebody's parents were listening to this and they're with their, you know, their little kids, and I missed that swear word. So anyway, I'm a one-man show. With my sister helps out a lot. I got a big support group, like with Ben and Anthony and Bryce and stuff, and other friends that are helping, you know, film when we're out in the woods and stuff. But a lot of this stuff comes down to me producing it. So with that said, it's hard to get back to all the PMs and all the emails that we're getting lately, but we're doing the best we can. Katie spends a lot of time editing. Now that she's editing, I'm able to produce a lot more content faster. But there's a little, I mean, Aaron, your salty sailor approach can take up a lot of editing time.
I know, right? Well, I had learned, obviously, if you cuss every day and an F-bomb is like a comma, you come a bit desensitized to foul language. And coming from the military and then construction, and my mom cusses like a sailor to this day. It's great, right? Like, so, well, Katie, which I'm getting to know better, she's super sweet. She's funny, and her husband Bryce, they're hilarious. She's you can tell, like, she can light up a room and chat with anyone, and then he just sits there and is like, back up. And so she texted me a screenshot of the sheep hunt, and she said, "Hey, Aaron, the blue lines above are the photos that I've placed into the sheep hunt." So like where they're spliced in.
So she's showing you the raw edited film strip
on my phone screen on a snapshot. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then there's a bunch of blue lines below. And I'm not, I like photos. I don't edit video. So 2 and 2 didn't come together to make 4 until she said the blue lines on the lower side are your cuss words. There's far more blue lines below than above. So I told Brian and Katie, so I have to give Katie $10 for every cuss word that I drop. And I made it through Phelps's seminar at Bowtech with no cuss words. I was close, but I listened and I didn't have one come out. So you potentially could hear some fudges, some fiddlesticks, some other stuff that my friends are going to make fun of me for. But since Katie has to edit this, I will, and you guys are doing this basically for free. So I will give her $10 for every real cuss word. Butthole does not count. You edited that out, and weenus doesn't count. Neither one of those count. Now, I'll try not to say them again, but those don't count.
Yep.
So there's some ground rules. The 4-letter words, the A word, the I'm going to go fishing by the damn word, all those count. So I won't say those. Well, I won't. I'll try. And I'm going to end up in
no guarantee. There's going to be one point where you're going to be like, it's worth the $10. I
know
you did it.
Yeah, well, with these, we're going to talk about some elk hunts today too that I had went on with a couple of my buddies, and it was pretty adventurous, and we shot a bunch of stuff. So there may be a 4-letter word that comes out. That's cool. I've got PayPal, right? She got a PayPal account. So, but one thing while we were gone, a link when I got back a couple days ago, because I've been out of pocket for a while, got sent to me about you and the Gritty Bowman on a rock slide. And so basically it was like what your capabilities are, what's your pedigree. And the one thing I will say is the animals behind Brian did not die of old age or from a car. You killed those.
Yes. So
I think what people, because I know you as well as I do now, you're not a guy that I've noticed ever to jump up and pound your chest and need to be known that you know. Like sometimes you talk to a guy and he will interject 14 different times in the conversation to make sure that you know he knows something, where you're not like that. Even if you do know, you'll sit quietly, listen, suck up what someone says, and then interject with whatever you may have of your own knowledge.
I hunted a lot when I was a kid, and then I took a long break for college and stuff, and then got back into it.
Right. Well, and I mean, you're obviously a pretty fit guy. So nutrition and fitness, you're very knowledgeable on that. You're very knowledgeable on hunting. But when you say I get lost in a phone booth and I carry 2 GPSs, there's a lot of people. I don't, in my opinion, that can't be. That's it. That's genetic, right? Like that doesn't go away. Like no matter how much of a killer you become, you're always going to suck at navigation. Like for me, automotive things, like I'm not going to be replacing an engine no matter how hard I try. I may get a little better at it, but there's still going to be other people that are really good at it naturally.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I got a kick out of reading through some of the comments on there because one, Joe Rogan's podcast is awesome, but he has not been hunting a long time, right? Like he's a super cool guy and he just started, but he's a great host. Now he doesn't host just hunting podcasts, but in your case, you've killed a ton of stuff. You're admittedly like, I don't like working on bows and I don't nearly know how to make them shoot right. So I'm not going to, but I would rather, not that I'm an expert, but I would rather someone say, I don't know, than someone BS their way into it and pretend. At least you have the common sense to say, I suck at navigation. So Brian is one, I wouldn't be doing a podcast with Brian if he was a chucklehead, because I've turned several other ones down. Not that I'm Chuck Adams, but one, you're a super cool dude. You got a great family. You know what you're doing. And I'm basically the Antichrist, right? And you have to keep me calm so I don't say anything too stupid. And then he edits things that people probably shouldn't hear, which you guys don't see that.
We package you up so you're more palatable for the public, the general public.
Yeah. Right. When we run into people on the trail, I almost don't talk because I'm sure it will come back later. Like I try to be as pleasant as I can.
Yes.
Because some things, I'm in my element out there. But just because I'm in my element, people may not understand me in my element because I'm psychotic, right? I'm just super jacked through the roof doing cheetah flips. So someone could say, hey, Aaron, how'd it go? If you got an elk on your back, and I'll be dropping F-bombs and every other word known to man. And then, you know, that guy's a jerk. You know, he cusses way too much and he's not presentable. Well, you caught me 6 miles in the wilderness and there's no children around. I probably could have toned it down, but I was excited. Yeah. So you do a very good job of, in my case, making sure it's understandable what I'm saying, because I often catch myself saying something, maybe I didn't make it as clear as I could, and you'll stop, go back, and make me re-explain it or interject with comments, not because you don't know you're trying to learn when you ask. It's because somebody probably won't understand what the heck I just said. So you make me repeat it in a little bit different form.
Well, I think it's cool. The whole Gritty Bowman thing has been fun. It was an excuse to get to talk to guys like you one-on-one, ask a lot of questions and learn from you guys. And so I never wanted to come across like I know a lot. You know, there's a lot I still want to learn. That's why traveling down to stay at South Cox's place and visit with him. There's so much that I could get out of South that he's willing to share and teach. And so I think, you know, meeting with you, Corey Jacobson, others, it gives me a chance to really, I don't know, get to know and learn some things that what I've learned the most is there are guys that kill elk every year by calling them in to right in their lap. And there are guys who never use a call, don't carry one in the woods. There are guys who hunt desert area for elk where it's wide open, guys who hunt thick timber. I mean, it's like there's a ton of ways to kill an animal, to hunt, and everybody has their different experiences. And I think it's just been really neat to tap into those, record them, and share them, you know?
Well, I look at it at photography. Like a lot of people request mean, hundreds of people a week. Get more photos up. Can we see more photos? Can we see more? Now I get haters too that basically defriend me on Facebook. They're like, I'm tired of seeing your photos. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, because other people ask. You can't make everyone happy. But when I go to a photography seminar, a photography class, or I go meet with someone like the Sony rep, believe me, I like Tony. I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything. Just start talking. I'm going to suck it up like a sponge, because he's been doing it forever. And even though I may seem like I know what I'm doing, I know a little bit with photography. I know enough, and I can help out a lot of people at a certain level. But once you've reached that level, and I go to a guy that's getting 30 grand a photo shoot, there ain't a lot of talking coming from me. I just like, okay,
right.
Let me write that down, because they are doing it for a living. They know they're out there way more, and they've had a lot more experience. And I think if I went in there and was like, my photo's as good as yours, why are you even teaching this class? That's not a good way to look at it. We've talked knowledge is power. Yeah. And so if I'm talking to someone, even if I don't think they know as much as me, or maybe they know more than me, or whatever, about a certain, whatever skill set, whatever it may be, whether it's backpack hunting, shooting, whatever, I try to always listen, because you can always gather something from someone. Right. So I think sometimes, go ahead.
I think you're also a combination of all the people you know and that you hunt with, like with the Gritty Bowman. You know, I've been hunting with Ben and Anthony since we were for more than 10 years now, and Ben since we were kids. Ben kind of has a natural ability to hunt and kill. He just somehow, just genetically, he just goes out and kills stuff. It seems like every time he steps in the woods, he just knows, he reads animals well or something, or sign. It just happens for him all the time. And with Anthony, he's been doing it so long, and he has such a drive. He's so driven. Well, the two of them together have a whole host of experiences and skill sets that complement mine. And my skill sets and my abilities are different than theirs. The three of us all are extremely different from one another. And when we go out together and hunt together, kind of as a team, basically, put a lot of miles out there. So when you kind of put it all together, you're a combination of all of those things, right? You're not just, Aaron Snyder. You're Aaron Snyder plus all those people you've ever hunted with. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. And I mean, well, obviously with haters being involved, because it's amazing, these podcasts, you have a huge following. I'm getting a following. People have learned maybe I'm not the peckerwood they thought I was. But at the end of the day, I'm not a great trophy hunter, right? I like to shoot a bunch of stuff. But when we go out, as in me and my friends, the success rate is close to 100% as you can get. When we go, something's hitting the ground, whatever it takes. It's not always big, which is where the criticism comes from haters. Like, I've already got a couple about I shot a 3.5-year-old 5x6. The sun wasn't even up this hunting season. And we had several bulls around us, and we kept calling them back and forth. And, not everybody knows the backstory or anything else. It doesn't really matter. But I had promised 3 guys I would hold out and not shoot 160-inch mule deer this year, which I always shoot a 150 to 160. Well, I told my buddy, Colton, the guy I was hunting with, I'm like, dude, something remotely close to a 6x6 comes by me, it's going to die. I'm like, I'm going to shoot it, because I need to start deer hunting, because I got to go tomorrow to Washington for a mountain goat hunt. Come back, I got a few days in between, then I'm going to Idaho with my buddy. His wife drew an elk hunt. So I'm like, which we'll go into the hunt in a minute, but I shot this bull as just a standard raghorn 5x6. I mean, he's a big body.
His horns look like they're just bright white, like he shed his velvet
Dude,
that day.
The herd was like that. It was crazy. It was like giant white sticks running around us. We had 20-some bulls around us at one time.
Wow.
There was one that was a little dirty from rolling in a wallow. They had all shed the day before. Not the day, but the week before.
Yeah.
But it was funny, because when I got back, it's not like I need somebody to say, oh, you shot a raghorn, because I'm the one that shot the raghorn, right? I know. one of the reasons we shot it is on public land. There was no elk there 36 hours after we shot that. There was about 13 hunters. There was people everywhere, right? And I'm like, Colton's like, man, maybe I should have shot that 4x4 because he passed up on a bull. And I'm like, dude, we'll find him. But I'm trying to hunt deer. Colton's trying to hunt elk. 2 elk tags in the pocket and a deer tag doesn't work. It's a little easier if he's hunting elk and I'm hunting deer. Not making excuses. That's just how life worked. Anyway. Right. But I get back and I get some hate mail, which I always get a kick out of, the hate mail of the great Aaron Snyder shoots another raghorn. And I'm like, thanks for the support, dude. That's just what I sent back, right? And then another guy said, do you think you'll ever shoot a big elk? And I'm like, well, I've shot a few big elk, but as Robbie Denning says, if you shoot enough, eventually something's going to be big. And Robbie's right. Like, and I've talked to a lot, I get a kick out of it because I'm getting more known in the industry, but I am a self-proclaimed anti-trophy hunter. Not anti, but like, dude, I shot that elk. I was happy as a pig in poo. Like, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. First day, the sun's not even up. We got a kick butt pack out. I almost slipped up on that one, Katie. But we got a cool pack out. We're in a great area. And I've got, I got 186 pounds of meat from it. And it wasn't that bad of a pack out. We got back in there to hunt. Well, immediately you get the haters that are like, kind of like with you, like, what's your pedigree? Like, I got 500 and some likes or something on Facebook, and that got brought up to me in an email. And it was something like South Cox shoots a giant deer, or somebody did. You shoot a 5x6 raghorn, and everyone loves you, was one of my emails I got. And I'm like, well, guys, maybe it's because I am the construction worker, do-it-yourself guy that came up from nothing, that's pretty realistic about public land, that sometimes you just want to shoot what comes in front of you. Now, I'm sure I could have shot a bigger elk. I'm not making excuses, but the one thing I have found out, people hate each other, right? Like with you, like you're about the nicest guy in the world. Same with Phelps. How can you not like you? And then you have a whole wall of animals behind you. Obviously, something died by your hand, or you bought that, I guess, from a flea market. But it just seems like people are looking for something to hate. Sometimes.
Well, and sometimes I think it's just a legitimate question. Like somebody's like, who is this guy? Yeah. But with a little effort, you can go and watch some film we produce. You can go and read an about page, or even watch the podcast instead of just listen to it. Like you said, I mean, there's some. Well,
and you're not taking selfies with your shirt off, showing how fit you are, and standing on the podium either.
Now and then I flex in front of the camera, But
well, I guess you're not selling yourself probably as well as you maybe could, right? Like you're pretty fit, but you don't go take selfies with your.
That's one of those things that annoys the crap out of me, though, Aaron. Is just people who push it so hard, and I've even got a little hate mail about talking about CrossFit too much, or paleo, or that's just a big turn off and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, the ones I try not to like, I actually try to balance all that. It's not like, but you are who you are, and there are going to be people who like you, and some who don't, and I'm okay with that.
Well, mine definitely hate mail, right? Yours may be question, like the ones I get. And there's a lot of good responses and a lot of cool people, but I mean, like this elk hunt we went on, for me, I really wanted to, I want to get an elk on the ground immediately, if not sooner. And I can pretty much kill an elk opening weekend, no matter where as long as I go into an area I know, just because there's a lot of elk. And if I get into them early enough where the hunters get in there, so I can go shoot a raghorn opening day almost every week, or almost every year opening weekend. And in this case, I'm like, dude, if it was funny because I'm like, if it has 6 points, I'm going to kill it. Well, that elk I shot had a 6 point about like that on one side.
Yeah.
And when I shot it, you could hear, because I shot it on a frontal, right? Like whatever, not good. But there were so many elk running around, and this one came in, and there was like 11 or 12 bulls kind of around it. And they were all smaller than that one, but then there was a couple big bulls on the hill.
Yeah.
And believe me, I would have shot those, but they were chasing cows, and I couldn't get them to stop. And so Colton actually, he had a swing and a miss, and then they all ran out. Well, then Colton, obviously, without any communication from me, thought, well, okay, I had my turn. So he laid on the ground and just started calling. And then I'm trying to call a little bit because he and I are close enough. It's not like a great buddy calling. We're only like 25 yards apart, but he's in the middle of a bush. Well, then all these elk come back in, and this one's just standing there bugling with his, and I'm like, do it again, buddy. You're going to die. And he did. I shot him right in the chest. And then it was crazy because when he spun, blood shot out like a fire hose.
Yeah.
Like backlit into the sky, just, and I can hear Colton like, giggle like, holy cow, and then it piled up. Well, we called the whole herd back in again. Colton passed up another bull. And anyway, we're going into the hunting story now, but it was funny because when I got back, I had some hate mail, and I saw guys asking some questions about you and your pedigree or your history. And obviously, you've got a pretty decent idea of what you're doing, as well as Anthony and Ben.
Well, and
do die.
It's funny. It was never my intention either to, I don't know, be an expert killing or expert hunter. I just wanted to entertain, have a good time, and enjoy the outdoors. The filmmaking thing is actually my biggest. That's what I want to do. I want to make films. I want to make films of our hunts, tell cool stories about our adventures or whatever. I want to make film. I don't have time to make film because I'm doing this freaking podcast all the time. It's been the podcast has taken up a lot of time, and especially so I'm trying to streamline the edit so the intro and the endings are pretty quick and easy to do. And because what I found
will help.
Oh, totally. And what I found is people I interview that don't swear, I can finish that podcast in the editing in an hour or two. Ones where you're really lighted up, I'm 4 hours into this process. So
it's job security. You just don't get paid, damn it. Oh wait, I said that. That might be $10. That's arguable.
But
son of a.
So anyway, but no, there's something's right. Something's going well because the podcast has more than 25,000 subscribers. I'm always totally open about all this stuff. It's got a lot of people supporting it, following it every week. It's growing. Every week it grows. So we'll keep doing it the way we're doing it. And hopefully, we continue to get the same response that it gives people a taste of the outdoors and gets them pumped about going hunting and gives them a lot of useful information.
In comedy, we have to have comedy.
Totally.
In there. I can't. I'm not going to mention other. I'm not a big podcast guy listening, but I've listened to a couple. I wanted to stab myself in the eyeball with a fork. I've got to have some humor in there. I'd rather learn a little less and laugh a little more. If I have the choice, because if I'm back in school listening to Charlie Brown's teacher, Bueller, I really am not going to listen. And so. For me, toning down the foul language, this means if I go broke, I'm going to have to just cuss and you're not getting any more money. But it has to be funny for me. And in my case, most of our hunts, I can't hunt with a guy that's too serious. And so most of our hunts, there's a lot of comical relief involved in it to a point on me pushing dangerous. Colton's can I make it down that? And he's legitimately, we weighed the pack. He had 178 pounds in his pack. And that was 8 miles. And he's coming off these cliffs. I'm you'll be fine. Let's go. So he gets halfway down, and I've got my pack off, and I'm looking up, and I take a leak, and I'm man, he doesn't have his bow. And so I climb back up there to grab his bow for him. Yeah. And Colton's only 25. He's a strong kid though, and super strong. And I'm dude, you didn't carry your bow? What's wrong with you? I'm goading him so I don't have to carry it, right? And he's man, I really could use both your walking sticks. And I'm fine, you weenus. So I give them both the walking sticks, and I took his bow, which those bows, I have to say, not a huge sales pitch here. I was skeptical of bow tech. Mm-hmm. I tell you what, that poor bow, it got cliff tested several times because I had 168 on my back plus 2 bows. And when I went down, the last thing I'm worried about is a bow. So there's, the Prodigy flying through the woods, and I'm chucking it in the closest bush I can as, I'm tucking and rolling. We got done last night. I shot the 120. It's still on like Donkey Kong. And I'm like, huh, well, that's a good testament because I had a Bowtech before and it had limb issues, which people know there was some limb issues on certain Bowtechs.
Yep.
But I'm sold now because that thing, like, even things that should have broken on, like shale falling down and smashing the bow. I'm not saying go do that, but it held up. I was super surprised. And that thing, I pinwheeled that elk in the chest after basically a torrential downpour, climbing across 45-degree slopes, falling to get over to those elk, and it was on the money. So anyway, not to do a huge Bowtech sales pitch, but I was pretty happy with it. But either way, to a dangerous point, I joke, like Colton fell down, the G5 almost got the twig and berries. It pinned him to the ground.
Of the antler. I saw the photograph on Facebook.
Oh, he was pissed. I'm snapping photos because I'm like a Chinese kid, right?
He's face down with the antlers in his crotch.
Well, then we couldn't get him up. Like I could not pick up the the whole pack and the antlers without getting his grub worm and his salmon eggs, right? I'm like, okay, this is bad. So finally, he kind of does this, what you would in wrestling, where you would kick your leg forward and then spin out.
Yeah.
So I reef the thing up, and he spins out really fast. And he's trying to get out of it, and he's like, "I can't believe you took pictures." I'm like, I wasn't that bad. So it was an interesting. That was for Colton's bull. That was a rough pack out.
So let's get that story. So how did that go down? Well, first, should we start with your bull or just bypass it?
The quick version of mine. Yeah, I know exactly right. So. We went in.
It was not big enough to really talk about, Aaron.
I get that, right? I mean, that's what I got from the emails. It's like, well, like Eeyore, right? Dang it. So when we went in, we had found a big mule deer. I'm not going to throw out any numbers. I missed it during this hunt, which I'll go into.
Obviously more than 180 because that was the deal you made.
Well, it sucks because what I have found out is we'll go into the story and tell you what I found out about giant mule deer, because I can shoot 160-inch mule deer almost every day, and I've proven that for 7 days. I'm like, my buddy John Pinch, I'm like, #trophy hunting sucks. And he's like, dude, no one's stopping you from shooting 160-inch deer. I'm like, dude, this is my 20th deer I passed up. This is BS. Like, I'm a bloodthirsty son of a gun. I like to see stuff hit the ground, and I'm like, dude, this is not cool. I'm taking your chuckle-headed butt in here next year, and we'll see how you do with the bow, because he's a gun guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, because we're 12,000, 13,000 feet. So anyway, we get in there. We had deer mapped out. We see a bunch of elk the night before, heard them bugling. We had a couple buddies behind us. And one of the buddies I had told, Yeti Dave, I'm like, dude, I think I heard a bull bugle over here. He's like, I didn't hear it. And I'm kind of hinting along. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I heard a bull bugle on that other side. I think he thought I was fibbing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we woke up the next morning, looked over the hill. There was a few bulls bugling, and we dropped straight down to them, circled the group. And then, I mean, it was like the movie 300, right? They're coming in, and the sun hadn't come up hardly. I smoked that one. Colton passed 2. He missed 1. Well, he didn't. Where he had set up, we didn't really expect the bulls the one time to come where they did. So I had a branch coming out. One of those branches that's so close you don't even really realize it's going to hit, because his arrow was doing some cheetah flips on the way to the elk. But anyway, so we got that one on the ground and got it cut up. Kind of had a moment of, had to take a pause for the cause to figure out how we were going to get out of there. Got out and had somebody come pick us up, saved us a couple miles. Came back in. We got on kind of some elk that night. Then day 3, there's nothing, right? There's no elk left. Well, I did get on a mule deer that was, it was a big deer. It was actually one we hadn't found in scouting. We were actually going down to Colton almost got a bull we had dropped down into. In the middle of that, a deer stood up and started running. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's a deer. And he like karate chops me to look at it. And I'm like, mother of pearl. It's huge, right? Had weak fronts, but the mass for days, right? It was a solid deer. So I went back down in. I'm jumping around a little bit, but we spotted the deer. The deer's, you've got like 1,200 foot drop, and then a Christmas tree, and then 50 yards after that bristlecomb, and then giant deer. I'm like, dude, I got this. I'll drop right to that tree. I'm going to wait. That thing will stand up. I'm going to shoot it. Like, money, no problem. That flipping deer between the stalk bedded on the other side of the bristle chrome. And I'm not, like we've mentioned before, I'm not a set of car keys. I'm a big guy. So my big fat head peeks around the corner. He's on the other side of the bristle comb now looking at me. Oh, crap. So I just verified the range, which I should have just shot it. He stood up and I got my bow to full draw and it was 54 yards, 52. And right when my 50 pin hit the back, it bounced. And, you know, Colton's about to cry because he's watching all this happen. So we leave. I'm like, Colton, I got to go back to work for a couple of days. We've got a frame crisis going on, trying to get frames to everybody here at Kafaru and take care of some paperwork. And I'm like, let's let things come down. We'll come back in. Yeah. So I come back in early to try and shoot that deer. I go down and I had about 5 cows try to commit suicide. And I'm like, man, I can't kill a cow and screw Colton because then that's going to screw up his elk hunt. And I got a lot of meat from that. And I still got to kill a deer. No deer came out, just cows. And so I go back to camp and, you know, I didn't bring the spotter the second trip, mostly because I didn't want to carry it. So I've got my binoculars on a tripod and I look down right below camp. 22-inch wide deer about this tall, right? Tallest deer I've ever seen. Just a tower. It's like 800 feet below camp.
They're like everywhere in Colorado.
There's a lot of them if you know where to look. This one where it was bedded was not where you think it would be bedded, but he's a smart deer, right? He was old. He had a big pot belly, big swayed back, and gaunted up hips. Probably 8-9-year-old deer. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, you're going to die because he was perfect spot. So I drop everything, no water. I got my chest rig, my rangefinder. I threw a giant chew in for luck, drop down the mountain, and I'm like, okay, here's, you know, because I had mapped everything out in my mind in a split second. And I'm like, okay. So I get to the dead tree he's bedded under. I get up 18 yards away. I see his butt and he's just walking around right in the bed. And I'm like, so I drew back thinking I'll get a shot, and he just kind of trotted a little ways and walked off. And I'm like, son of a, it's like, this sucks, right? Like now I got to climb back to camp. This is depressing. No one's here to even talk to the story about it. I got to go talk to myself. So, but it didn't blow out. So I'm like, well, I'll kill it later tonight. So I climb back up. Colton comes in. I'm like, dude, you wouldn't. And I, you know,
and
drop.
How far down did you have to drop? And then you go back
800 feet about. Okay. But I mean, it's pretty much straight down. So the deer walks off and I'm like, okay, he'll come back. So we're watching and we've had to, at this point, move from our original camp, like 3.5 more miles in because of all the people, basically the hunt. Yeah. So we're so far, we're in the nosebleed section now, right? We're so far from our vehicle. It's not even funny. And so I'm watching, and there's like a sliver, and this is, you learn things every year. Colton's like, are you going to grab your bow? I'm like, man, we're like 100 yards from camp. If something commits suicide, you shoot it. I'm not grabbing my bow. I'm just grabbing my binos. Well, I picked that deer up, and I'm like, deer, there's the buck. There's the buck. And so now you never want to stalk a buck feeding, but when they bed in the trees and thick timber, I kind of threw that rule out of the window because it's not like you're going to kill them anyway. Still hunting giant mule deer in dry weather doesn't work. So there's like a sliver of sunlight going down, and the 2 minutes it took me to go get my bow and come back cost me the deer. So I go back, and it's funny, while I'm getting my stuff together, which is just chest rig and bow release and shoot and Copenhagen, I was like, get back, and Colton's like, big deer, big deer, big deer. I mean, he's dropping F-bomb. Like, how big a deer are you talking about? I mean, I'm not going to throw out numbers, but I've seen the world record, and I about cried when I missed it. Like, the biggest deer I've ever seen, typical 4x4. His legs shaking against his tripod. He didn't even get to go shoot it. I do. So he's freaking out. I drop straight down, and I'm like, I've got 25 minutes or I won't be able to get this thing. So I drop down, circle around, and I come up beneath him, and there's 3 of them. The smallest was probably 168. The other one's 180. And then the one that was, I mean, I literally was fine. I bring the binos up, and I'm like, so then I put that down. I grabbed the rangefinder, And I'm like, and I put it up against my cam, and I'm like, boom, boom. Okay. So I draw the bow, and I couldn't see, you know, it all happened so fast. And it's not like I'm drawing back on 200 plus typical 4x4s every day. So I normally have ice in my veins. Yeah, it was slushies. It was not good. I drew my bow, and I couldn't see my fibers. But for my last fiber is I go green, yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow. Well, you know how they have this like wheat looking stuff. Anyway, basically there was this speck of white on my pin, and it was 64 yards, and my brain just affixed on that white flake. And I mean, I shoot a back tension. I'm holding steady, and when I let go, I'm like, we've just made history. Bam, right in the dirt. I'm like, just to the left of it. And I have no idea what just happened other than I didn't hit it. It jumps a couple times and stops. I'm like, thank you, Lord. Shot number 2. Missed it again.
Really?
And I missed it twice. And I don't miss very often. I mean, everybody that knows me knows I don't. I mean, I 12 ring. It doesn't matter, but I didn't hit it, right? Left. So I grab my sight, and I'm looking, and I'm like, mother of pearl. And I got my head affixed on that white speck that looked like a fiber, and missed left. So climbed back to the top, and you know, we talked for a minute about what we're going to do. And at this point, it looks like the you know, Panamanian army is invading us. There's hunters everywhere coming in. Like, we can see them from the ridgeline we're on. And I'm like, dude, I blew those deer out. Let's go find you an elk. And he's like, no, man, well, that deer's huge, whatever. And I'm like, no, we're cool. I'm like, we'll come back. Let's let it rest. We blow him out too much. I come in on him again. He'll never come back. And so we went and started moving north. So at this point, like, there's more hunters coming in we can deal with. I've blown the deer out. That was my 3rd stock on deer. My probably 20th I passed up. So we have to move north. And as bad as it is, I shouldn't even say this, but I loaded up my truck with stickers, and we had to we put decoy trucks out, right? It's bad, right? People figuring out. So it's funny because now people are like, I know where you're hunting, and I'm like, good. You think I'm that stupid? It's like, you mean like, so when I pulled in so everybody in the world could see the stickers on the truck right off the side of the road, you thought I did that on purpose? Because I put the stickers on right before I left. So at this point,
so you put decoy trucks up to make people think you're up these other trails, and then you went with a clean truck to the trailhead,
a Subaru, with the coexist sticker on the back. We did it up right. So we're in the area where we're at. Even that area now, at this point, we're 5.5 miles, maybe 6 miles in. And it's just me and Colton. And Colton is the guy we've talked about. He'll run himself to death, right? He won't stop. I'm like, well, dude, I'm gonna go north, and I'm gonna look for this deer tomorrow morning and see, or deer, not this deer, but look for deer tomorrow morning. I'll ridge run this bad boy, lightweight pack, see what I can find. So I'm so far, I'm like Helen gone from Cartagena, right? I'm like 3 miles north of where we were. And there's like bugles after bugle in this canyon. And I'm looking in it, and I'm like, should I even tell Colton? Like, that's bad. Like, even for me, that's pretty bad.
That looks like you need a rope and rappelling gear to get down. I mean, it's like straight down.
When we came off, we took our packs off, and I used it kind of as a drag anchor behind me when we slid down, which is a testament to the clothing I was wearing and the pack I was dragging behind me, because how it didn't break, I don't know. Like, so I go back, we put everything together, and I'm like, dude, there's a lot of elk where we're going, but I don't think it's seen humans before. And he's like,
so
what?
You actually had the heart to tell Colton.
Oh, no, I knew
knowing what was ahead.
Oh, it was funny because we got everything, and we hiked back up there, and we had too much gear. What happened is we pre-packed some stuff and took it in early, thinking that this place wouldn't get blown out by everyone, and it got blown out. So we have pretty heavy packs just going north. And Anyway, so he and I get up there, and it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They're still bugling like all day long, like just one after another. And
Wow.
Colton's like, go down now. Should we go down? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe we should wait. And he's like, yeah, we should wait. He's super pumped, right? And his life dreams to shoot a 6x6 like a herd bull. He shot. And I give you like a pedigree on Colton. He's 25. This was his 7th bull with the bow. I don't know how many cows he shot with a rifle. He paid for college guiding, right? He's a hardworking individual. So he's a worker. But we get up on that ridge line, and I'm like, maybe we just like go tomorrow, right? Like, let's think about this. Well, the wind will be right. And he agreed, and we're trying to make, not that I know, that I had the best decision. It's not like I knew what I was the right thing to do either, because hunters could have come in somehow from the bottom. The wind could have been completely bad in the morning. We didn't know, but one, we were tired. We did have a water problem, which thank God I lost rock, paper, scissors for who had to drop the other side to get water. And Colton went anyway. He's like, dude, you don't have to go in this hole with me, and you're going, I'll go get water. And I'm like, thank God, because I didn't want to go. So next morning we get up there. They're not quite as vocal. I'm like, dude, they're still in there. He's probably tired of bugling. Who knows? We drop off the face of the earth, and it is bad. Like 50, you saw the photo, 50-degree slope. And we somehow managed to get down to the bottom, and we don't know for sure if we've scared anything, but we don't think we have. And we have the puffy jackets on. We're sweating to death. We get over there. We pull everything off. We're trying not to forget anything. We start creeping up, and I made the first potentially bad decision, because we're not 100% sure where we're at now that we've dropped 1,500 vertical feet. And I'm like, hey, let's go here. And Colton's like, no, we got to go this way. I'm not a guy like, no, we're going. I'm like, all right, dude, your memory's probably better than mine. Okay, so we go this way. And I'm like, and so then it was a good team effort, because then he wants to go a turn a few minutes later. And I'm like, no, dude, I think we need to go this way. Well, we end up somehow by some miracle right where we wanted to be. And I cranked off a bugle to confirm. And it confirmed. It started coming, right? Like we were a little closer than we thought. And so Colton is like, give me 10 minutes to get to the bottom. And I'm like, and I think we got about 2 minutes, but okay. And Colton's used to hunting solo. So he's used to pushing forward, trying to get closer.
Yeah.
Well, and he and I had never buddy team called really or whatever. So I'm thinking, well, just get down there and I'll call this thing up to you. Well, he's thinking, I'm sure I got a caller, but I need to sneak in and shoot it. So he gets down, and it's been like 7 or 8 minutes, and I'm seeing the bull's coming, screaming his head off.
This podcast has been broken into multiple parts to make the downloads faster. You have reached the end of a part, but not the end of the complete podcast. So please check your Gritty Bowman library for the next part of this podcast.
Bollocks.